Hey guys, tonight we are going to drift away on the gentle currents of the vast Pacific Ocean, thousands of years before compasses or sextants or even a decent map. You're going to become a master navigator, a wayfinder, one of the most skilled and respected figures in Polynesian society, guiding your people across endless blue horizons in nothing but a giant, hand-built canoe. You'll feel the sun on your skin, the salt spray on your face, and the ancient rhythm of the ocean's swells beneath you. Now let's be honest, armed with your current knowledge of, say, Google Maps, you probably wouldn't last a week. The sheer amount of information you'd need to hold in your head is staggering. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always nice to know who's listening in the quiet hours. Go ahead and post your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's fascinating to see where everyone is drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your world, for now, is small and green and volcanic. It is an island, a perfect jewel of a place, cradled by a turquoise lagoon and a protective coral reef. You can walk its entire circumference between the rising and the setting of the sun. You know every stone, every tree, every cove. The scent of hibiscus and brine is the very scent of your soul. The taste of roasted breadfruit and taro is the taste of home. By any modern standard, this is paradise. So why on earth would you ever leave? The reason is as quiet and persistent as the tide. It's in the way the fishing nets seem a little lighter each lunar cycle. It's in the way the taro patches, tended with such loving care, yield slightly smaller roots this season. The island, which has sustained your ancestors for generations, feels tired. It is breathing more shallowly. There are simply too many mouths to feed, too many families building their huts along the shore. This isn't a sudden, dramatic famine. It's a slow, gentle squeeze, a quiet communal understanding that the land is asking for a rest. And then there is the human element, which is always more complicated. You are not the firstborn son of the chief. Your older brother, strong and respected, will one day inherit the authority, the best land, the mantle of leadership. It's the classic tale of the junior sibling. He gets the prime beachfront property with the good coconut trees, and you get the opportunity for a glorious and very wet adventure. There has not been a great falling out, no bitter family feud that ends with you being dramatically exiled. That's not really the way. It's more of a subtle, unspoken pressure. A dispute over a prized fishing ground, a disagreement in the Council of Elders, or your cousin snagging the last perfectly ripe mango from the communal tree, and frankly, that was the last straw. These small frictions build up, and in a community this close-knit, the most honorable solution is not to argue, but to create space. To take your ambition and your family and find a new canvas to paint your future on. It's a far more elegant solution than fighting over the television remote, I suppose. This idea of leaving isn't a new or shocking one. It's a foundational part of your culture. You hear it in the chants of the elders, the stories of the Great Migration, of the ancestors who did this very same thing. They were the Lapita people, who thousands of years ago began this incredible eastward push from Southeast Asia, leaving a trail of their distinct stamped pottery across the islands like breadcrumbs. They were the pioneers, and you are their legacy. So the thought of setting out across the open ocean isn't terrifying. It's traditional. It's a deep and ancient calling. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for these voyages was a desperate search for resources or a cultural drive for exploration and prestige. Was it a push from behind or a pull from the horizon? For you, it feels like both. You feel the gentle push of a crowded home, but you also feel the irresistible pull of the unknown. The possibility of mana, of gaining spiritual power and authority by founding a new settlement, of becoming an ancestor worthy of legend yourself. This dream begins not with a bang, but with a whisper. You speak to your wife, to your brothers, to your cousins. You find others who feel the same squeeze, who see the same thinning of the resources, who dream of a place where their children can run free. You talk to the tufunga, the master craftsman and navigator, the one man who holds the keys to the ocean in his mind. He is old, his skin like a map of the sea itself, and he's been watching you. He has been waiting for someone with the right spirit, the right blend of courage and humility to ask the question. One evening, sitting before a fire of coconut husks under a sky littered with familiar stars, the decision solidifies. It's time. The whispers have become a plan. You will build a great canoe. You will leave the only home you have ever known and sail into the sunrise, searching for the mythic ancestral homeland of Hawaii, or at least a new island that you can make into a Hawaii of your own.
The decision has been made, and now the real work begins. You cannot simply walk to a celestial shipyard and place an order. You must build your vessel from the island itself, coaxing it from the living wood with your own hands. The entire community mobilizes because a project of this scale is impossible for one family alone. It becomes the island's shared dream, a focal point of collective effort. Your journey starts not at the water's edge, but deep in the humid, cathedral-like silence of the island's interior forest. Led by the tufunga, the master builder, you and a dozen others trek into the highlands. This isn't a simple logging expedition. The forest is the domain of Tane, the god of forests and birds, and you enter his home as a guest, not a conqueror. You walk past familiar ferns and vines, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms. The tufunga is searching for two specific trees, perhaps towering koa or mature breadfruit trees that are straight, tall, and free of major flaws. They need to be twins if possible, trees that have grown in similar conditions, sharing the same sunlight and rain so that their wood will behave in the same way. When he finally finds them, a hush falls over the group. You don't just start chopping. There is a ritual. Chants are offered to Tane, explaining the purpose of your request. You are not taking the trees for a frivolous reason, but to carry life across the sea, to create a new branch on the great family tree of your people. It's a transaction built on respect. A quirky tidbit you've always found comforting is the practice of planting a new sapling for every great tree that is felled, a promise to the forest that life will continue. Only after the proper respects have been paid does the first stone adze strike the bark. And what an adze it is! Forget steel. Your tools are made of hard, dense basalt, painstakingly knapped and ground to a sharp edge, then lashed to a wooden handle. Felling a giant tree with these tools is a testament to patience and rhythm. It takes days, not hours. The forest echoes with the steady, percussive thunk, thunk, thunk of stone on wood, a sound that has shaped your world for 1,000 years. It's a team effort, with men working in shifts, their bodies slick with sweat, until finally, with a great groaning sigh that seems to shake the very island, the tree surrenders and crashes to the forest floor. The process is repeated for its twin. Now the even harder work begins, shaping the hulls. The logs are immense, heavy, and unforgiving. The outer bark is stripped away, and the slow process of hollowing them out commences. This is done with a combination of those same stone adzes and controlled fire. A small fire is set along the top of the log, and as it chars the wood, you and the others scrape away the blackened, softened material. It's a smoky, hot, and tedious job. You work for weeks under the dappled sunlight, your muscles aching, your hands calloused.
The air is thick with the sweet, sharp smell of burning wood. Slowly, miraculously, the rough logs begin to take on the elegant, curved shape of a canoe hull. You run your hand over the surface, feeling the subtle contours. It's not just a boat, it's a sculpture. Once the basic shape is achieved, the surfaces are smoothed with rough coral blocks and shark skin, a kind of natural sandpaper, until the wood feels almost alive beneath your fingers. These are not single-hulled boats. You are building a vaca, a magnificent double-hulled voyaging canoe. The two hulls, each 60 or 70 feet long, will be joined together by a series of crossbeams called iako, creating a wide, stable platform, the papa. This is the genius of your ancestors' design. A single hull is fast but tippy. A double hull offers incredible stability in the open ocean, capable of carrying dozens of people, supplies, plants, and animals without capsizing in heavy seas. It is a floating island, a portable piece of home. The most critical stage is lashing everything together. There isn't a single nail or screw in the entire construction. Your rope, your nails, your everything is senet, a cordage made from the fibers of coconut husks. For months, the women and older children have been at work, soaking the husks, beating them to separate the fibers, and then rolling and braiding them into miles of strong, saltwater-resistant rope. It's everywhere, great golden brown coils of it piled high. It probably looks like a cat's ultimate dream playground, but its purpose is sacred. The tufunga directs the lashing with the precision of a surgeon. Each connection point, where the crossbeams meet the hulls, is wrapped in complex, specific patterns. These lashings are not just functional, they are an art form, with names and histories. They are designed to have a little give, to flex with the motion of the waves, so the canoe moves with the ocean, rather than fighting against it. You pull the senet tight, your whole body straining, the rough fibers digging into your palms. Archaeologists and cultural historians continue to debate the exact evolution of lashing techniques across different island groups, each a unique dialect in the language of rope. But here you are simply following the pattern your master has shown you, a pattern passed down for generations. The canoe is literally stitched together. Finally, the central platform is built, a deck of lighter wood planks, and on top of it, a small thatched shelter for protection from the sun and rain. A mast is stepped, and a triangular sail woven from pandanus leaves is carefully bent on. The vessel is complete. She sits on the beach, a magnificent creation of wood and fiber, humming with potential. She is not just a boat. She is the embodiment of your community's hope, faith, and masterful skill.
With the great vaca resting on the sand like a patient seabird, your focus now shifts from construction to curation. You are about to assemble a miniature, portable version of your entire world. You can't just pack a few snacks and hope for the best. Every single item brought aboard is the result of careful, generational planning. This isn't a weekend camping trip. You are packing the genetic and cultural seed of a new civilization. The weight, the space, the utility of every object is scrutinized. At the heart of your cargo is the stuff of life, plants. You will not be sailing to a fully stocked supermarket. Whatever island you find, if you find one, will likely be a blank slate, so you must bring the pantry with you. The women are in charge of this vital task. They move through the carefully tended gardens, not harvesting for a feast, but selecting the genetic best of your agricultural heritage. They gather the corms of taro, the starchy, essential root that forms the backbone of your diet. These aren't just chucked in a bag. They are wrapped carefully in damp moss and leaves, kept in special baskets in the shadiest part of the canoe's platform to protect them from the salt and sun. It is a living library of sustenance. Alongside the taro are cuttings from the sweet potato, or kumara. Historians have long debated the incredible journey of the sweet potato, a plant of South American origin that was widespread throughout Polynesia long before European contact. Did a seed float across the entire Pacific? Did South Americans sail west? Or did your own ancestors sail east, make contact, and bring it back? The latter theory of a Polynesian-led return trip has gained significant traction, and it speaks to the incredible two-way capability of your voyaging technology. For you, it's just a reliable, delicious food source. You also pack breadfruit saplings, their roots balled in earth, and the precious seeds of the gourd, which will provide you with vital containers, bowls, and water bottles in your new home. And of course, there are coconuts. Dozens and dozens of coconuts. They are the ultimate multi-tool: food, drink, fiber for rope, shells for cups. You never, ever leave home without coconuts. Next on the packing list is the livestock. You can't exactly herd a flock of sheep onto the vaca. Your protein on the go is smaller, more compact, and, frankly, a bit noisier. You select a few pairs of pigs, not the big lumbering hogs of modern world, but a smaller, hardier breed. They are penned in a specially constructed cage on the central platform. Alongside them are chickens, their clucking a constant familiar sound against the whisper of the waves. And perhaps most surprisingly to a modern observer, you bring dogs. These Polynesian dogs, or kuri, are not primarily pets in the way we think of them. They are a food source, a kind of walking emergency ration. It sounds a little grim, but in a world of profound uncertainty, you can't afford to be sentimental about your protein. Then comes the gear. Fishing is not a hobby, it is a daily necessity. So you pack an arsenal of hooks. These aren't flimsy metal things. They are beautiful, lethal works of art, carved from mother pearl, bone, and shell. Each one is designed for a specific type of fish, from the deep-sea trolling lures to the smaller hooks for reef-dwelling species. You have nets woven from plant fibers and heavy stone sinkers. You pack your adzes, the same basalt tools you used to build the canoe, because you will need them to build your new homes. You bring fire-making tools, 2 sticks of dry, soft wood that, when rubbed together with practiced skill, can coax a life-saving ember into existence. One of the most curious and vital pieces of cargo is something you can't even see. It's the water. You will be surrounded by undrinkable salt water for weeks, maybe months. You will carry as much fresh water as you can in sealed gourds and hollowed-out bamboo stalks, stored in the coolest part of the twin hulls. But it will never be enough. You are relying on your ability to catch rainwater with the sail and funnel it into containers, and on the navigator's skill to find the fleeting freshwater lenses that sometimes sit atop the denser saltwater near islands. This constant nagging thirst will be your companion for the entire journey. It's a low-grade, ever-present anxiety. A single squall, which might otherwise be a terror, becomes a blessing, a chance to replenish your most precious resource. Your family, of course, is the most important cargo. 20 to 50 people will make this journey with you. Your wife, your children, your brothers and their families. This isn't a solo expedition of daring young men. It is a multi-generational migration. The children, their laughter echoing on the deck, are the very reason for the voyage. They are the future you are sailing towards. You look at their faces and you know that failure isn't an option. The weight of their trust is heavier than any stone anchor. You are packing their future into this vessel, a fragile collection of plants, animals, tools, and people ready to be transplanted across the largest ocean on Earth. The canoe is no longer just wood and rope. It is an ark, a self-contained bubble of life, ready to float off the edge of the known world. The day of departure arrives, not with a sudden command, but as the natural culmination of weeks of preparation. The winds are right, blowing steadily from the west. The season of long-distance voyaging is upon you. The entire island, it seems, has gathered on the white sand beach. This is not a cheerful bon voyage party with silly hats and streamers.
It is a deeply solemn, sacred, and heart-wrenching affair. You are saying goodbye to everything and everyone you have ever known, with no guarantee you will ever see them or land of any kind again. The air is thick with the scent of sacred oils and the smoke from ceremonial fires. The chief and the elders lead the proceedings. They are not just seeing you off, they are ritually severing you from the community so you can become the seed of a new one. It's a strange and painful paradox. You must be cut away in order to grow. There are long, powerful chants, the voices of the old men rising and falling in a cadence that feels as ancient as the island's volcanic rock. These are not just prayers for your safety, they are a recitation of your genealogy, a reminder of the unbroken chain of ancestors stretching back into the mists of time. They are reminding you who you are, so you don't forget out there on the vast, empty water. It's the oral equivalent of packing your family photo album. You and the other voyagers are anointed. Your skin glistens with fragrant coconut oil, a blessing and a symbolic layer of protection. You are adorned with leis, not the festive, colorful ones of a modern luau, but heavy, fragrant garlands of leaves and flowers that represent the life and spirit of the island. They feel weighty on your shoulders, a physical manifestation of the love and sorrow of those you are leaving behind. Then comes the hardest part, the personal goodbyes. You embrace your parents, your face buried in the familiar scent of their skin and clothes. No words are adequate. What can you say? See you later? Unlikely. Don't worry? Impossible. Instead, there is the hangi, the pressing of noses and foreheads, a sacred sharing of breath, the essence of life. In that silent, prolonged touch, a universe of love, fear, pride, and grief is exchanged. You see your friends, the ones you grew up with, the ones you fished and played and fought with. Their faces are a mixture of envy and terror. They are celebrating your bravery while being profoundly grateful they are the ones staying put. It's a pretty relatable feeling, I think. Like when your friend decides to run a marathon and you're just there to hold their water bottle and feel vaguely guilty about your life choices. The vaca has been loaded, every basket, every pig, every person finding their designated place. The tide is high. The moment has come. A group of the strongest young men on the island put their shoulders to the twin hulls, and with a great coordinated heave, they push the massive canoe off the sand and into the gentle waters of the lagoon. The canoe floats. It's alive. You climb aboard, your feet leaving the solid land for the last time. The platform feels steady beneath you, a small, independent piece of earth. The sail, a magnificent triangle of woven pandanus, is hoisted up the mast. It catches the wind with a satisfying thwomp, and the vaca begins to glide silently across the turquoise lagoon towards the gap in the reef. This is the point of no return. The reef is the island's protective wall, and passing through it is like stepping out the front door and locking it behind you. As you clear the churning water of the pass and enter the deep, royal blue of the open ocean, a great cry goes up from the shore. It is a sound of mourning, of pride, of final farewell. You look back. The crowd of people on the beach becomes a colorful blur. The familiar curve of the bay, the line of coconut trees, the green bulk of the central mountain, it all begins to shrink. You keep your eyes fixed on it, memorizing every detail. This is a crucial part of the navigator's art. You are creating a backsight, a mental image of your departure point. As you sail away, you will watch how the features of the island change, how the peaks sink below the horizon. This memory will become a vital tool, a reference point for understanding distance and perspective. Historians refer to this as expanding your mental map from a known point. For you, it's a far more emotional process. You are watching your entire world vanish. For hours, you sit on the deck, silent, watching. The sounds of the island, the birds, the voices, the distant surf on the reef fade away, replaced by the new sounds of your journey. The creak of the lashings, the whisper of the wind in the sail, the gentle gurgle of water moving past the hulls. The island becomes a smudge, then a speck, and then, with a finality that clutches at your throat, it is gone, swallowed by the vast curving horizon of the Pacific Ocean. You are alone. You and your small band of travelers on your floating island with nothing but water and sky in every direction. The sun begins to set, casting a fiery orange and purple path across the waves. The first stars begin to prick the darkening sky. Your voyage has truly begun.
The last sliver of your home has vanished, and the world has been reduced to two elements: the dark, shifting water beneath you and the immense crystalline dome of the sky above. The sun has dipped below the horizon, and the brief tropical twilight gives way to a profound darkness, a blackness deeper than you have ever experienced on land, where the glow of cooking fires always pushed back the night. Out here, the only light comes from the heavens, and it is dazzling. Without the interference of mountains or man-made light, the sheer number of stars is overwhelming. The Milky Way isn't a faint, cloudy band, it's a brilliant, teeming river of light, so bright it seems to have texture, a celestial road paved with diamond dust. This magnificent, terrifyingly beautiful spectacle is not just for stargazing, it is your map, your compass, your clock, and your calendar. Your training as a navigator, which began when you were just a boy, now moves from theory to life or death practice. The Tufunga, your mentor, sits calmly at the stern, his hand resting on the large steering paddle. He doesn't need to speak much. His presence is a calming anchor. He guides your attention, not with a pointing finger, but with a slight turn of his head, a quiet utterance. He prompts you to find the first and most important signpost in the southern sky. There it is, Hanaya Kamalama, the Southern Cross. It's not just a pretty pattern, its orientation and position tell you the direction of south. You learn to use the two pointer stars, Alpha and Beta Centauri, to draw an imaginary line that, when extended, hits the celestial South Pole. It's your one constant, your unmoving anchor in a sky that is constantly wheeling above you. Next, you must identify the stars that will serve as your guides for an east-west course. This is the fundamental principle of your navigation system. You don't think in terms of north, south, east, and west as fixed points on a compass rose. You think in terms of the rising and setting points of specific stars. The Tufunga has taught you to visualize the horizon as a circle, a great celestial compass with 32 distinct points, or houses. Each house is the precise location where a known star will rise in the east or set in the west. This mental construct is known to modern scholars as a star compass or sidereal compass, and it is one of the most sophisticated intellectual achievements of any non-literate culture. Tonight, your course is set towards the rising sun, eastwards. So you look for the stars that rise in the eastern portion of the sky. You watch as a bright star, perhaps Antares with its distinct reddish glow, lifts above the horizon. You know the exact house it has risen from. Your job is to keep the bow of the vaca pointed directly at that star. Simple enough, right? But here's the joke. The sky doesn't stand still. As the Earth rotates, Antares will begin to climb higher, arcing across the sky. It's only a reliable direction marker for a short while. So, you must have a sequence ready. As Antares climbs too high to be a useful directional guide, you must already know which star will rise next in a nearby house to take its place. It's like a celestial relay race. You pass the baton of your direction from one star to the next through the night. The Tufunga chants the sequence under his breath, a low melodic poem that lists the stars in their proper order. It's a mnemonic device, a song that holds the map of the sky. The entire life of a navigator is spent memorizing these star paths, the arcs they take across the sky in different seasons. It's a staggering amount of data to hold in your head, all without a single written word. A quirky, fringe theory some anthropologists have proposed is that the intricate patterns seen in a navigator's sennit lashings, like the ones holding your canoe together, were not just decorative but may also have served as a tactile form of mnemonic aid, a physical reminder of the star paths or island locations.
Holding a certain knot could trigger the memory of a specific chant or celestial sequence. As you stare at the sky, you also learn to read the information it gives you about your latitude. Back home, you know that a certain star, let's call it the home star, passes directly overhead at its zenith. As you sail north or south, the zenith position of that star will shift. By gauging how high a star is at its peak, using the simple but effective method of holding your hand out at arm's length and measuring its height in fingers or spans above the horizon, you can get a remarkably accurate sense of your north-south progress. It's not as precise as a modern GPS, of course, but it's enough to ensure you don't stray too far from the latitude of your target island chain. The first night is a lesson in humility. The sheer scale of the ocean and the sky make you feel infinitesimally small. Your family is huddled under the thatched shelter, trying to find sleep amidst the gentle, rhythmic rocking of the canoe. The pigs occasionally grunt, the chickens rustle, but you must stay awake, watchful. Your eyes ache from the strain of focusing on the pinpricks of light. You are the guardian of this small, sleeping world. The stars are not just distant balls of fire. They are your companions, your guides, your ancestors watching over you. You are no longer just a man on a boat. You are a student of the cosmos, and your first terrifying, exhilarating lesson has just begun.
As the long, star-filled night finally gives way to the first pale hints of dawn, a new guide appears. The sky in the east begins to glow, a soft gray that blossoms into pink and then a fiery orange. The sun, your most powerful and reliable celestial body, is about to make its entrance. Your nocturnal star map is about to be replaced by your daytime one, and it is governed entirely by the sun's steady, predictable journey across the sky. The moment the sun's upper limb breaks the sharp line of the horizon is a critical point of observation. Just as you noted the precise house where your guide stars rose during the night, you now mark the exact position where the sun has risen. This confirms your eastward heading. For the first part of the morning, your job as a helmsman is relatively simple. Keep the bow of the canoe pointed directly towards that brilliant rising orb. It's a clear, unmistakable target. The path of the sun becomes a temporary highway, a golden road laid out across the surface of the water just for you. But like the stars, the sun does not stay put on the horizon. It climbs. As it gets higher in the sky, it becomes less of a directional pointer. By midday, when the sun is nearly overhead, it's almost useless for telling east from west. It tells you it's hot and that you should probably reapply your coconut oil sunscreen, but it won't tell you where to go. This is a period of trust and transition. You must trust the work you did during the morning and hold your course steady, relying on other, more subtle clues for a few hours. The real genius of sun-based navigation comes from understanding its full arc. You know that it rises in the east and sets in the west, but it's not a perfect east-west line, and this is a crucial detail. The exact position of sunrise and sunset changes throughout the year. In the summer solstice, it rises and sets further to the north. In the winter solstice, it rises and sets further to the south. You have a deep, intuitive understanding of this seasonal drift. Your entire sense of time and the calendar is built around observing the sun's path. You know that for this particular season, sunrise should be in this specific spot on your mental compass, and sunset should be in that spot. This knowledge allows you to calibrate your entire journey. Historians and navigators call this dead reckoning, a term that sounds a bit more grim than it is. It simply means calculating your current position by using a previously determined position and then estimating your speed and course over the elapsed time. You are essentially keeping a running mental logbook. You'll think, okay, we started at the island, we followed the sun for one full day at a speed of about 6 knots. How do you know your speed? Not with a fancy speedometer. You gauge it by watching the water flow past the hull, by the feel of the wind, by the tension on the sail. It's an art form. A quirky and incredibly effective method was to time how long it took for a piece of spit or a small wood chip to travel from the bow to the stern of the canoe. It's a bit gross maybe, but it works. As the afternoon wears on, the sun begins its descent. Now you have a new target. You anticipate its setting point. You know from your seasonal knowledge where it should set.
If you've held your course true all day, it will set in the predicted house on the western horizon. If it sets in a different spot, you know you've been pushed off course by a current or a sidewind, and you can make a correction as night falls and the stars reemerge. The setting sun is your daily report card. It tells you how well you did. There's a constant scholarly debate about the level of precision these ancient navigators could achieve. Some argue they could pinpoint tiny isolated islands from 1,000 miles away with unerring accuracy. Others suggest it was a system of probabilities, of aiming for a larger target, like a whole archipelago, and then using more localized signs to find a specific island within it. The truth, as you experience it, is likely somewhere in between. You aren't aiming for a pinprick. You are aiming for a screen, a wide net you cast across the ocean, knowing that if you can just hit that general area, other signs will guide you home. The sun is more than a compass point. It is the source of life and a constant presence. It warms your skin, it dries your sail after a rain squall, it creates the very winds you depend on. But it is also relentless. The glare off the water is blinding. The heat on the open deck can be brutal. The small thatched shelter becomes a haven, a place to retreat from the sun's oppressive gaze. You learn to appreciate the passing of a cloud as a moment of profound relief. You are living by the sun's rhythm in the most intimate way imaginable. As it finally kisses the horizon, painting the sky in glorious, fleeting colors, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You have survived another day. You have held the course. And as the first stars begin to appear once again, you get ready to hand the reins of your journey back to your silent, glittering friends in the night sky.
As day turns back into night and the stars reclaim the sky, you begin to tune into a deeper, more primal source of information. It's a source you can't see, but one you can feel with your entire body. It is the pulse of the ocean itself, the swells. While the wind-driven waves on the surface are chaotic, temporary, and local, the swells are ancient, powerful, and predictable. They are vast rivers of energy that travel for thousands of miles across the Pacific, generated by distant, long-gone storm systems. For a master navigator, learning to read these swells is as crucial as reading the stars. You find a quiet place on the hull of the canoe, away from the chatter of your family and the creaking of the mast. You lie down, flat on your back or on your stomach, and press your body against the wood. You close your eyes. The goal is to shut off your other senses and focus entirely on the motion of the vaca. The canoe, being a double-hulled vessel, is a remarkably sensitive instrument for detecting this motion. You feel it rise and fall, pitch and roll. But it's not random. You are searching for a pattern. There it is. A long, slow, deep heaving motion. A lift, a pause, and a gentle fall. That is the primary swell, the dominant one, coming from the direction of the prevailing trade winds. In this part of the Pacific, it's likely coming from the southeast. It is your baseline, your oceanic North Star. It's so consistent that even on a completely overcast night, when you can't see a single star, you can hold your course by keeping this primary swell at a constant angle to your canoe. If it should be hitting your stern quarter, you use the steering paddle to ensure it stays there, a constant, gentle push from behind and to the side. But it's rarely that simple. The ocean is a complex tapestry of movements. As you lie there, concentrating, you begin to discern other, fainter patterns superimposed on the main one. A secondary swell, perhaps, coming from a different direction, generated by a storm 1,000 miles away. Maybe a third, even more subtle one. Your body, and especially, as the old navigators would say, your testicles, become incredibly sensitive instruments. The elders taught you that this part of the body, resting on the deck, is the best at detecting the subtle rocking and screwing motion of the canoe as it interacts with these crossing swells. It sounds like a bit of folksy humor, but there's a genuine anatomical truth to it. It's a low center of gravity, sensitive to minute changes in motion. This is not a skill you can learn from a book. It takes years of lying on canoes, feeling the water, and correlating the feelings with the known conditions. The tufunga, your mentor, can sit in the dark and tell you with absolute certainty, there is a swell from the north. A storm passed that way 3 days ago. He is reading a weather report that is days old and 1,000 miles away, simply by feeling the water's memory of it. Historians and oceanographers have confirmed the validity of this technique. They've used modern wave monitoring buoys to show that these long-period swells are indeed incredibly consistent and can travel across entire ocean basins. What is still debated is the sheer level of sensitivity a human being can develop. Could a navigator truly distinguish between 3 or 4 different swells and use their interactions to pinpoint a location? The oral traditions say yes, absolutely. For you, it's not a debate. It's a physical reality. This constant motion becomes the rhythm of your life. It dictates how you walk on the platform, how you brace yourself when you sleep, and how you secure your precious cargo of gourds and plants. At first, for some of the children, it brings on seasickness. But soon everyone's body adapts. The rhythm of the ocean becomes your own rhythm. The rise and fall of the swell is as natural as breathing. You also learn to read the interaction between the swells and the canoe itself. You listen to the sounds the water makes as it slaps against the 2 hulls. The sound on the windward hull is different from the sound on the leeward one. The timing of the splashes, the gurgles, the little whirlpools that form at the stern, all of these are tiny bits of data. It's an immersive, all-encompassing sensory experience. A quirky but important part of this training involves staring at your own wake. You look back at the trail your canoe is leaving in the water. Is it straight? Is it curving? A current pushing you sideways will create a distinct curve in your wake, even if you are holding the steering paddle perfectly steady against the swell. It's a visual confirmation of the invisible forces acting upon you. The water is telling you a story, and your job is to listen with every part of your being. As you lie there on the deck, feeling the deep, slow pulse of the Pacific, you feel a profound connection to the planet. You are not simply on the water, you are a part of it. You are a tiny nerve ending on the vast skin of the ocean, sensing its ancient rhythmic breathing. This feeling, this deep physical understanding of the sea, is the true heart of the navigator's art. The stars may be your map, but the ocean is your guide.
The initial thrill and terror of the first few days have begun to fade, replaced by a new reality, the slow, monotonous, and deeply rhythmic routine of life at sea. The sun rises, the sun crosses the sky, the sun sets. The stars wheel overhead, the swells lift and fall. This is your entire world now, and survival depends on establishing a pattern, a series of daily tasks that give structure to the endless expanse of time and water. Your day begins before dawn. As the navigator, you are often awake most of the night, but as the sky lightens, the rest of the canoe stirs to life. The first priority is always a damage report. You and the other men move across the platform, checking every lashing. The constant motion of the sea, the flexing of the hulls, the strain on the mast, all of this can work the sennit ropes loose. A failed lashing could lead to a catastrophic failure of a crossbeam, or even worse, the mast. You run your hands over the complex knots, pulling them, testing their tension. It's the maritime equivalent of kicking the tires before a long road trip, except your life actually depends on it. Then comes the most thankless and essential job, bailing. No matter how well built the vaca is, water will find its way in. Salt spray from the waves, a sudden rain shower, or just slow, patient seepage through the wooden hulls. The children are often tasked with this,
using carved wooden bailers and half coconut shells to scoop the bilge water from the bottom of the hulls and toss it overboard. It's a constant battle against entropy, a reminder that the ocean is always trying to reclaim you. Food is the central event of the day, but it's a far cry from the feasts you enjoyed back home. Your supplies are strictly rationed. The person in charge of the provisions, usually an elder woman with a will of iron, doles out the daily allowance: a piece of dried fish, a small portion of fermented breadfruit paste called mahi, perhaps a shared coconut. It's a bland, repetitive diet, designed for maximum energy with minimal spoilage. Every crumb is precious. There are no seconds. The main source of fresh food is, of course, the sea itself. Fishing is not a pastime, it is a critical daily chore. The men trail long trolling lines from the stern, baited with lures of shimmering mother-of-pearl. The flash of the lure in the deep blue water mimics a small panicked fish, irresistible to predators like tuna and mahi-mahi. The sudden, zinging sound of a line going taut is a moment of high excitement on the canoe. Everyone who is able stops what they're doing to help haul in the prize. Landing a large fish is a moment of collective triumph. It means fresh protein for everyone. It means a break from the monotony of dried rations. The fish is expertly gutted and cleaned at the edge of the platform, the entrails thrown back to the sea as an offering of thanks. Nothing is wasted. Life for the women and children revolves around the central platform. They tend to the precious cargo of plants, ensuring the taro corms stay damp and the breadfruit saplings are protected from salt spray. They recheck the lashings on the gourds and baskets, making sure nothing can roll overboard in a sudden lurch. The women also spend countless hours on maintenance, weaving new mats from pandanus leaves or repairing the sail where it has begun to chafe. And there is always sennet to be made. Even at sea, the process of braiding coconut fibers into cordage continues, ensuring you have a ready supply for any necessary repairs. It's a quiet, meditative task, perfect for the long hours. One of the more peculiar historical realities of these long voyages was the management of sanitation. There's no designated bathroom. You simply find a spot at the leeward edge of the canoe and take care of business. It's a bit lacking in privacy, but on a vessel this crowded, modesty is a luxury you quickly learn to live without. The sea cleanses all. Historians often debate the psychological toll of these journeys, the confinement, the lack of privacy, the constant uncertainty, the gnawing fear. How did they cope? The answer lies in the routine, in the work, and in the stories. In the quiet hours of the afternoon or the deep of night, the elders would chant the old tales, the stories of the gods, the epics of the great migration heroes who came before. These weren't just bedtime stories, they were a cultural anchor, a way of reinforcing their identity and purpose. They were a way of connecting their small, fragile canoe to the grand, sweeping narrative of their people. You listen to these chants, the familiar words a comforting balm against the fear. The pigs and chickens also require care, fed on scraps and given water from the precious rationed supply. Their presence is a constant, familiar sound from home, a reminder of the land-based life you left behind and the one you hope to build again. You find a strange comfort in their simple animal existence. As the sun sets, the fishing lines are brought in. The evening meal is distributed. A quiet calm settles over the canoe. The children curl up to sleep. The rhythm of the swells, the creak of the rope, the whisper of the wind. This is the lullaby of the open ocean. Another day is done. The routine has carried you through.
For weeks, your life has been governed by the predictable rhythm of sun and swill. The routine has become a comfort, a shield against the vastness of the Pacific. But the ocean is never truly predictable. Its mood can change with terrifying speed, and you are about to face the two great terrors that haunt every navigator's mind: the violent fury of a storm and the soul-crushing emptiness of the doldrums. The first sign of trouble is not a thunderclap, but a change in the sky and the sea. The familiar, friendly trade winds begin to feel gusty and erratic. The long, rhythmic swells you've come to know so intimately become confused, choppy, as a new, more aggressive swell pattern begins to dominate. High, wispy cirrus clouds, like mare's tails, streak across the sky, a sure sign of an approaching weather system. The air becomes heavy, humid, and charged with an almost electric tension. The tofunga sniffs the air, his face grim. He gives the order you've been dreading: lower the sail. There is no argument. The crew moves with frantic, practiced efficiency. The great triangular sail, your engine, is quickly unlashed and brought down, folded, and secured under heavy mats. The mast itself is unstepped and laid down along the central platform, lashed securely to the crossbeams. You are stripping the Vaca down to its most resilient form, making it as small a target as possible for the coming fury. Everything on the deck is double-lashed. The pigs and chickens are secured in their pens. The children are herded into the small, thatched shelter with the women. Your job is to man the long steering oar at the stern, alongside another strong paddler. The sky darkens to a bruised greenish black, even though it's only mid-afternoon. The wind begins to shriek, a high-pitched, terrifying sound that seems to tear at the very air. Then the rain comes, not a gentle tropical shower, but a solid horizontal wall of water, so dense it's hard to breathe. The sea, which was once a deep blue, is now a churning, foaming chaos of gray and white. Waves that were once gentle swells are now monstrous, moving mountains of water that rise up around you, blotting out the horizon. Your world shrinks to the immediate vicinity of the canoe. All your navigational knowledge, the stars, the sun, is useless. Your only goal is survival. You and your partner on the steering oar fight to keep the canoe's stern pointed into the wind and the waves. This is the most stable position. If you let the Vaca get caught sideways, broadside to one of these massive waves, it could be rolled over, a catastrophic event from which there is no recovery. Your muscles scream in protest. Your hands are raw on the paddle, but you hold on, your entire focus narrowed to this one all-important task. The canoe groans and flexes under the strain. It rises up the face of a terrifyingly large wave, hanging for a moment at its crest with a nauseating lurch before surfing wildly down the other side into the trough. This continues for hours that feel like an eternity. After the storm passes, as suddenly as it arrived, an eerie calm descends. The sea is still choppy and confused, but the wind and rain are gone. A weak sun breaks through the clouds. You are battered, exhausted, and soaked to the bone, but you are alive. A damage assessment is made, lashings are retightened, and with a collective sigh of relief, the mast and sail are raised once more. But you are now faced with a new problem. The storm has blown you wildly off course. Historians still argue about how navigators managed to reorient themselves after a major storm. The most likely method was a combination of observing the remaining swell patterns to get a general sense of direction, and then waiting patiently for the first clear night to find the stars again and recalibrate their position. But there is another, more insidious enemy than the storm: the calm. After days of steady wind, you might sail into a region of the ocean known as the doldrums. The wind just dies. The sail hangs limp and useless. The canoe bobs listlessly on a sea of glass under a baking, relentless sun. The silence is unnerving. The forward motion that has been your constant companion is gone. You are adrift. This is in many ways more terrifying than the storm. A storm is a violent struggle, an active fight. The doldrums are a slow, passive torture. The heat is oppressive. Your precious water supply dwindles at an alarming rate. The fish seem to disappear. The mood on the canoe becomes tense and irritable. The routine breaks down. There is nothing to do but wait and hope and watch your resources disappear. Tempers fray. The children become listless. Doubt, the most dangerous stowaway, begins to creep into the minds of the crew. Did we make a mistake? Will we ever move again? It is a profound psychological test. The Tufunga, ever calm, might order the men to get out the paddles, not because they can make any significant progress in this vast ocean, but to combat the despair, to give them a task, a purpose. It's a battle against hopelessness. A quirky fringe belief that certain chants could call the wind, but as the days stretch into a week, even the most faithful begin to wonder if the gods have stopped listening. Finally, after an eternity, you feel it, a faint cat's paw of a breeze on your cheek, a ripple on the water. The sail stirs, then begins to fill. The canoe begins to move. The collective sigh of relief is even more profound than the one after the storm. You have survived the calm, and your journey can continue.
You have survived the fury of the storm and the despair of the calm. You have recalibrated your position under the familiar stars and found the rhythm of the swells once more. The canoe is moving steadily again, a tiny speck of purpose in the vast blue emptiness. For weeks you have seen nothing but water and sky. But now your senses, honed by the navigator's training, begin to search for a new category of clues, subtle biological signs that hint at the presence of something you cannot yet see: land. The first and most promising signs are the birds. Out on the truly open ocean, the only birds you see are the great voyagers like the frigate bird or the albatross, birds that can stay aloft for days or even weeks. But as you approach a potential island chain, the type of bird begins to change. Your focus is on the land nesters, the birds that must return to a physical home every single evening to roost. In the late afternoon, as the sun begins its descent, you scan the horizon with an intensity you have not used before. You are looking for birds like the booby or the knotty tern. If you see them flying with purpose, low and fast in a straight line, they are heading home for the night. Their flight path is a living arrow pointing directly towards the nearest land. You might change your course slightly to follow them, a gamble that their home is in the direction you want to go. The Tufunga might even command the crew to paddle with extra vigor to keep the birds in sight for as long as possible before they disappear into the twilight. Conversely, in the morning, you watch for these same birds leaving their roosts. They fly outwards in radial patterns like the spokes of a wheel, heading out for a day of fishing. Spotting a flock of terns flying away from a single point on the horizon at dawn is another powerful confirmation that land lies in that direction. A mainstream historical fact is that navigators had an encyclopedic knowledge of the flight ranges of different species. They knew that a certain type of tern would only fly, say, 30 miles from its home island. Seeing that bird meant you were within that specific radius of land. It was like seeing a road sign telling you the next town is 30 miles away. The sky itself begins to offer different clues. You are no longer just looking at the sun and stars, but at the clouds. The low-lying, puffy cumulus clouds that pepper a tropical sky are not always random. An island, with its volcanic peak and dense vegetation, heats up under the sun and releases moisture, often creating its own stationary cloud cap that hovers directly above it. On a day with scattered clouds everywhere else, a single anchored cloud that refuses to move with the wind is a tantalizing beacon.
You will stare at it for hours, judging its lack of movement against the drift of the higher cirrus clouds. Historians still debate the reliability of this method, as atmospheric conditions can be misleading, but for a seasoned navigator, it was a key piece of the puzzle. There are even more subtle cloud signs. The underside of a cloud can reflect the color of the surface beneath it. Over the deep blue of the open ocean, the base of a cloud is gray or white, but a cloud hovering over a large, shallow lagoon with a white sandy bottom will pick up a faint greenish-white tinge on its underside. It's a ghostly pale reflection that only a trained eye, accustomed to the infinite variations of the sky, would ever notice. It's like seeing the faint glow of a city on the clouds from 50 miles away. Then there are the signs in the water itself. You begin to see floating debris that is not from your own canoe. A coconut, a piece of driftwood, a pandanus leaf. You might even bring it aboard to examine it. Is it fresh? Does it have barnacles? The freshness of a leaf or a branch tells you how long it has been in the water, and therefore how far it might have traveled from its source. A quirky, though perhaps apocryphal navigator's trick was to taste the water on a piece of driftwood to see how salty it was, another clue to its time at sea. Seeing a floating log with land-based insects still crawling on it is a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. You begin to see different kinds of fish. The deep ocean pelagic species give way to the fish that live closer to reefs and shallows. You might even spot a sea turtle which, while capable of long journeys, often stays within a certain range of its nesting grounds. Every living thing becomes a potential clue, a messenger from the world you are so desperately seeking. These signs build upon one another. A single stationary cloud is a maybe. That cloud, combined with a flock of homeward-bound terns flying towards it, is a strong probability. Add a piece of fresh driftwood floating from that same direction, and the probability becomes a near certainty. The excitement on the canoe is palpable. The mood shifts from one of patient endurance to one of eager anticipation. You are no longer just sailing, you are hunting. You are following a trail of natural breadcrumbs laid out for you by the birds, the clouds, and the currents, all leading you towards the prize. Land is near. You can feel it.
The physical signs of nature are pointing the way, but now you must rely on the most powerful and complex tool in your entire arsenal, the map inside your own head. For weeks, you have been practicing the physical arts of navigation, reading the stars, feeling the swells, watching the birds. Now you must engage in the deeply abstract and intellectual side of the craft, utilizing a mental framework so sophisticated it borders on the supernatural. At the core of this system is the star compass you have used every night. But now you will use it not just for direction, but for position. You have been keeping a meticulous mental record of your journey. You know you sailed east for a certain number of days, then corrected for a storm, then drifted south during a calm. You have tracked your progress along a specific line of latitude by observing the height of the stars. You are not just randomly sailing, you are following a pre-planned route to a known destination. But how can you know a destination you've never seen? Because the location of every island is not stored as a set of coordinates, but as a piece of knowledge, a set of instructions passed down through generations of navigators in the sacred chants. The chant might say something like, "To find the island of the small birds, sail towards the rising of Antares for 10 days, then turn and keep the Southern Cross to your stern until the North Star sits 1 finger width above the horizon." It's a recipe, a set of directions. Your job is to follow that recipe precisely. This is why the memorization of the chants is so critical. A single forgotten verse could mean missing your target by hundreds of miles. The central concept you are using is something modern scholars call latitude sailing.
It is far easier to find a line of latitude and sail along it than it is to pinpoint a tiny dot in the ocean. Your ancestors discovered that major island groups in the Pacific tend to lie along similar latitudes. So the strategy is to sail north or south until you reach the correct latitude of your target island chain, and then simply turn east or west and sail down that line. You know you're on the right latitude when that special home star we talked about earlier reaches the exact same height in the sky as it did back at your home island, or when another star reaches a pre-memorized altitude. It's an incredibly effective way to turn a search for a needle in a haystack into a much more manageable problem. But the most mind-bending concept in your mental toolkit is the idea of the phantom island, or what navigators call telapa. This is one of the most debated and mysterious aspects of Polynesian navigation. It's not about seeing a physical island, it's about sensing its presence before it is visible. As you approach an island, you know that it will disrupt the smooth, regular pattern of the ocean swells you have been feeling. Your job is to detect that disruption. To do this, you must conceptualize an island that you are not actually aiming for. You intentionally aim your canoe to one side of your true destination. Let's say you know your target island lies directly to the east. You will deliberately sail slightly north of that east-west line. Why? Because if you aim directly for it and miss it for some reason, a calculation error, a strong current, you will sail right past it and never know if it was to your north or to your south. But by aiming deliberately to the north of it, you know that the island must lie to your south. You have eliminated 50% of the uncertainty. This brilliant, counterintuitive strategy is a core principle of your search. Now, as you sail along this offset course, you are constantly feeling the swells. You know the primary swell is coming from the southeast. As you get closer to your target island, which is off to your south, that island will begin to block and interfere with the swell. You will start to feel a change in the rhythm. The clean southeast swell will become weaker, more confused. This area of confused seas, the shadow of the island on the ocean surface, is your signal. You have found it. You can then turn south and sail into the swell shadow, knowing it will lead you to the land that is causing it. This is a level of abstract thinking that is truly staggering. You are navigating towards a feeling, towards the absence of a pattern. It's a fringe concept that some Western scholars initially dismissed as impossible fantasy, but which has been proven time and again by modern practitioners of traditional wayfinding. It is a testament to a completely different way of seeing and understanding the world, one based on holistic, sensory integration rather than on isolated quantitative measurements. You hold this complex, multi-layered map in your mind. The star compass, the sequence of rising and setting stars, your latitude measured by their height, the set of chanted instructions, the deliberately offset course, and the constant search for the subtle disruption in the ocean's pulse. It is a masterpiece of cognitive engineering, a palace of memory built without a single blueprint. And as you feel the first faint hint of confusion in the southeastern swell, a thrill runs through you. The phantom island is becoming real.
The subtle confusion you felt in the primary swell was the first clue. The phantom island is beginning to make its presence known. Now your focus shifts to an even finer, more nuanced reading of the water. You're searching for the final pieces of the oceanic puzzle, the way an unseen island, still miles below the horizon, bends, reflects, and refracts the ocean's energy. This is the art of interpreting reflected swells, and it is perhaps the most advanced and delicate skill in the navigator's repertoire. You once again lie flat on the deck of the Vaca, closing your eyes to heighten your other senses. You filter out the primary swell from the southeast, the one you've been feeling for weeks. You filter out the secondary swell from that distant storm. You were listening with your entire body for something new, a ghost, a whisper, a tiny, almost imperceptible pattern of motion that runs contrary to the main oceanic flow. There it is, a very faint, very fast, jittery little tremor in the canoe. It's not a lift and fall, but more of a slight side-to-side rocking. This is the reflected swell. What you are feeling is the energy of the primary swell hitting the shore of an island somewhere ahead of you and literally bouncing back. It travels back out to sea against the grain of the dominant waves. Because it has traveled to the island and back, its energy is greatly diminished. It is a weak, tired echo of the main swell. To an ordinary person, this feeling would be completely undetectable, lost in the noise of the larger waves. But to you, after weeks of being attuned to the sea, it stands out like a single out-of-tune instrument in a familiar orchestra. This reflected swell gives you a precise bearing. The direction it is coming from is the direction of the island. It's a pointer, just as reliable as a flock of homeward-bound birds, but one you can detect from much farther away. You can feel a reflected swell from an island that is still 40 or 50 miles away, long before any other sign would be visible. But the information doesn't stop there. As you sail closer, another phenomenon comes into play: refraction. As the deep ocean swells begin to enter the shallower waters surrounding an island, they start to feel the seafloor. This slows them down and causes them to bend or refract around the island's edges. Imagine dropping a stone in a pond. The ripples move out in perfect circles. But if you put a larger rock in the pond, the ripples will curve around it as they pass. The same thing is happening here on a massive scale. You can feel this refraction. The angle of the primary swell, which has been constant for your entire journey, will begin to change slightly. It will seem to wrap around a point on the horizon. By sensing the direction and curvature of this bent swell, you can not only confirm the island's presence, but also get a sense of its general shape and size. A small, steep-sided volcanic island will bend the waves differently than a large island with a wide, shallow lagoon. This is where things get truly mind-boggling. To aid in this process, some navigators from certain island groups, most famously the Marshall Islands, developed a unique and controversial tool: the stick chart. These were not maps in the Western sense. They did not show islands and coastlines to scale. They were abstract diagrams, mnemonic devices meant to teach and remember the patterns of swells. They were made of thin strips of coconut frond midribs tied together with sennet. The straight sticks represented the primary, consistent swells. Curved sticks showed how those swells bent around islands, which were represented by small cowrie shells tied to the matrix. There's a significant scholarly debate about whether these stick charts were ever actually taken on voyages. The prevailing theory is that they were not. They were training tools, used on land to teach apprentice navigators what to feel. The student would study the chart, hold it, and the master would explain, "When the swell feels like this curved stick, you are near this island." The real map was always the one carried in the navigator's head and felt in his body. The stick chart was just the textbook. As a navigator in the Central Pacific, you may not use a physical stick chart, but you use the exact same mental model, a dynamic, three-dimensional image of how the ocean's surface is shaped by the land you cannot yet see. This is a profoundly holistic science. You are synthesizing data from every possible source. The faint, jittery feeling of the reflected swell gives you a bearing. The gentle curving motion of the refracted swell gives you a sense of proximity and shape. The homeward flight of the terns confirms the direction. The stationary cloud on the horizon gives you a visual target. All of these different information streams, gathered from the sky, the birds, and the very texture of the water,
are converging on a single exhilarating conclusion. The excitement on the Vaka is now a quiet, focused energy. Everyone knows the moment is close. You feel the reflected swell growing stronger, the jittery motion becoming more pronounced. The island is no longer a phantom. It is a real physical object, shouting its presence across the water through the language of waves. You are no longer just a navigator. You are a listener, and the ocean is telling you its final secret.
The physical and sensory clues are all screaming one word: land. The reflected swell is stronger. The stationary cloud is a permanent fixture on the horizon. The birds are now a constant presence. The intellectual and emotional climax of the journey is at hand. Now, as the navigator and spiritual leader of this voyage, you turn to the final and most sacred tool in your possession: the chants. These are not sea shanties sung to pass the time. They are the living library of your people, the sacred repository of navigational knowledge, genealogy, and cosmology, all encoded in dense, poetic verse. Throughout the journey, you and the Tufunga have murmured the chants for star paths and weather. But now you bring forth the deep chants, the ones that hold the spiritual power, or mana, of the voyage itself. As dusk settles and the first stars appear, the Tufunga begins. His voice is low and resonant, a sound that seems to emanate not just from him, but from the canoe itself, from the sea, from the generations of navigators who have sung these same words. You and the other initiated men join in. The chanting is a formal, structured performance. It's not a sing-along, it's a ritual. The language used is often archaic, a high priestly tongue that the younger people on the canoe may not fully understand, but they feel its power. The words are imbued with a sacred gravity. The chant you are reciting now is a kawa, a specific type of chant that combines a genealogical recitation with a map of the sea. It begins by calling on the gods, on Tane, god of the forest who gave you the wood for the canoe, on Tangaroa, god of the sea whose domain you are crossing, on Rongo, the god of agriculture and peace whose blessings you will need to build a new home. You are acknowledging the powers that govern the world, showing respect, and asking for their continued guidance in these final, critical miles. Then, the chant shifts. It begins to list the names of your ancestors, starting with the very first navigators who ventured from the mythical homeland of Hawaii. The names roll off your tongue, a long, unbroken chain connecting your small vessel to the dawn of your people. This is not just a history lesson. By invoking the names of these great wayfinders, you are calling upon their spirits, their accumulated knowledge, their mana. You are asking them to join you on the steering deck, to guide your hand on the paddle. It's a powerful psychological tool, transforming your lonely and terrifying task into a collective endeavor, shared with the greatest heroes of your lineage. It's the ultimate version of phoning a friend. Embedded within the genealogy is the navigational data itself. The chant will say something like, "Enhine Nui Te Po bore the current that flows to the east," and Maui, with his great hook, pulled up the island that sits under the shadow of the Booby's Flight, where the swell from the south dies and is reborn as a tremor. It's a beautiful, poetic, and incredibly efficient way of storing complex information. The natural phenomena, the currents, the birds, the swell patterns, are personified, woven into the family tree of the gods and ancestors. This narrative structure makes the information far more memorable than a dry list of instructions. A long-standing debate among linguists and anthropologists is the degree to which these chants were standardized versus improvised. Were they recited verbatim every single time, a fixed and sacred text? Or did a master navigator have the latitude to improvise, to weave in observations from the current journey, to adapt the ancient poem to the present reality? The most likely answer is a bit of both. The core structure and the sacred names were immutable, but a truly great navigator could embellish the chant with his own mana, his own insights, making the ancient story come alive in the present moment. The rhythm of the chant is crucial. It's often synchronized with the rhythm of paddling if the crew is paddling to make faster progress. The rise and fall of the voices match the dip and pull of the paddles, creating a powerful sense of unity and shared purpose. The rhythmicity and sound vibration seem to harmonize with the very rhythm of the sea itself. As you chant, you are not just speaking, you are praying. You are remembering, you are navigating, you are connecting yourself, your crew, and your vessel to the entire cosmos. The fear and uncertainty that may have been gnawing at you are washed away, replaced with a profound sense of confidence and destiny. You are not lost at sea, you are exactly where you are supposed to be, guided by the gods, your ancestors, and the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 years. The chant continues for hours, a mesmerizing, hypnotic drone under the brilliant stars. It tells of the creation of the world, the adventures of the gods, the discovery of the islands you know, and finally, it speaks of the island ahead. It gives it a name, describes its spiritual qualities, and affirms that it is your destiny to find it. The words of the chant are painting a picture of the land before your eyes can see it, willing it into existence through the power of sacred utterance. The canoe feels steady and sure beneath you, no longer just a vessel of wood and rope, but a vessel of immense spiritual power, sailing on a sea of memory towards a shore of pure potential.
The sacred chants have fortified your spirit and focused your mind. The physical signs are now so strong they are undeniable. The reflected swell is a constant, palpable tremor against the hull. The stationary cloud looms on the horizon, a steadfast promise. The air itself is changing. And then it comes, the first sign that transcends all instruments, all training, all calculations. It is the scent of land. After weeks, maybe months of breathing nothing but the clean, sterile, salty air of the open ocean, your sense of smell has been reset. It is a blank slate, acutely sensitive to any new input. You are on the steering deck as the pre-dawn light begins to soften the eastern sky. A gentle breeze, the first breath of the land's daily cycle, wafts out to meet you, and in it, you catch a fragrance so rich, so complex, and so overwhelmingly beautiful that it almost brings you to your knees. It is the smell of damp earth, of rich soil after a rain. It is the smell of decaying leaves and vegetation, a perfume of life and decomposition that simply does not exist in the sterile world of the sea. Woven into that earthy base is the sweet, heavy fragrance of unseen flowers, perhaps night-blooming jasmine or gardenia. It is the most beautiful smell you have ever experienced. You lift your head and breathe it in deeply. It is the scent of hope, the scent of a future. A quiet murmur spreads across the waking canoe. Others are smelling it too. Faces that have been tense with the strain of the journey relax into expressions of wonder and relief. The children, who have known nothing but the canoe for a huge portion of their young lives, look around in confusion, smelling something for the very first time. As the sun finally rises, it illuminates the base of the stationary cloud, and there, beneath it, is no longer just a smudge or a trick of the eye. It is a solid line, a dark, jagged silhouette against the growing light of morning. Land. A cry goes up, but it's not a wild, boisterous shout. It is a deep, emotional, and reverent sound, a sound of profound gratitude. Tears stream down the weathered faces of the elders. Your family huddles together, pointing, their faces alight with a joy so pure it is almost painful to behold. The Tufunga stands silently, his hand on your shoulder, a faint, proud smile on his lips. His work is done. He has passed the test. He has delivered his people to the promised land. Now all your navigator's skills are put to a new test. The approach. This is a dangerous phase. An unknown island is an unknown quantity. Where is the reef? Is there a safe passage into the lagoon?
A mistake now could mean wrecking the Vaca on a sharp coral head, ending your epic journey in disaster just yards from your destination. You furl the sail part way to slow your approach. You post lookouts in the bow, their eyes scanning the water for the telltale signs of submerged coral, a change in the water's color from deep blue to turquoise, or a line of white foam where waves are breaking on a hidden reef. The sun is your ally now, as a high sun angle allows you to see deeper into the water, revealing the dangers below. A quirky but vital piece of information passed down in the chants often described the location of the channel through the reef in relation to a specific landmark on the island. Where the twin peaks make a saddle, the chant might say, "The reef opens its mouth." You scan the green volcanic slopes of the island, which is now growing larger and more detailed with every passing moment. You can make out individual trees, the glint of a waterfall, the white sand of a distant beach. You see the twin peaks. You steer the canoe towards them. As you get closer, you see it. A break in the line of surf, a channel of calm, deep water leading into a protected lagoon. It is exactly where the ancestors said it would be. With immense skill, you and the other helmsman guide the heavy, laden canoe through the narrow pass. The churning, chaotic water of the open ocean gives way to the placid, crystal-clear turquoise of the lagoon. The transformation is instantaneous. The motion of the canoe softens. The sound of the wind is replaced by the gentle lapping of water and the cries of shorebirds. You have arrived. The canoe glides across the lagoon towards a white sandy beach fringed with coconut palms. The water is so clear you can see the coral gardens and brightly colored fish below. The air is warm and filled with the symphony of the land, the buzzing of insects, the rustle of leaves, the screech of parrots. It is a sensory feast. You lower the sail completely, and the canoe drifts the final few feet until its hull grinds softly onto the sand. The journey is over. The silence that follows is profound, broken only by the quiet weeping of some of the passengers. For a long time, no one moves. You just sit, breathing it all in, trying to comprehend the magnitude of what you have accomplished. You have crossed the largest ocean on Earth, guided by the stars, the waves, and the scent of flowers on the wind.
The gentle scrape of the hull on sand is the final sound of the voyage and the first sound of your new life. You sit for a long moment in stunned silence. The solid stillness of the land, a strange and alien feeling after so long on the moving sea. The air, thick with the scent of earth and flowers, feels heavy and rich in your lungs. Slowly, deliberately, you stand up on the platform, your legs unsteady, not from weakness, but from the simple act of being on a surface that doesn't move. You are the leader of this expedition. You must be the first to step ashore. You climb over the side of the canoe, your feet sinking into the warm, shallow water of the lagoon. You wade the last few feet and step onto the white sand. The feeling is indescribable. The solid, unyielding ground beneath your feet is a profound comfort, a deep and primal reassurance. You have done it. You have brought your people to land. You are no longer a voyager. You are a founder. But this is not a moment for casual celebration. The first act on this new land is one of deep and solemn ritual. The Tufunga joins you, carrying a sacred bundle. He finds a clear spot on the beach, just above the high tide line, and he begins a final series of chants. These are chants of thanks and arrival. He thanks the gods for their protection. He thanks the ancestors for their guidance. He thanks the canoe, the Vaca itself, addressing it as a living entity, a member of the family who has carried you all safely in its womb. He then addresses the island itself. He announces your presence, states your peaceful intentions, and asks for the land's blessing. This is a crucial step. You are not conquerors, you are guests, asking to be welcomed, hoping to live in harmony with the spirit of this new place. The first task is to make an offering. From your precious, dwindling supplies, you take a taro corm, one of the ones so carefully protected for the entire journey. You find a spot with good soil just beyond the beach, and with your hands, you dig a small hole. You place the taro into the earth, a symbolic planting that represents the transferring of your old world's life force into this new one. You are literally planting your roots. A similar offering is made with a piece of dried fish to Tangaroa, the god of the sea, thanking him for his bounty and marking the transition from a life of fishing to a life of farming. Then, the rest of the voyagers disembark. The children, hesitant at first, touch the sand with wonder, then break into joyous, shrieking laughter as they run along the beach, reveling in the freedom of unlimited space. The pigs and chickens are unloaded, grunting and clucking their confusion at the solid ground. Your family gathers around you, their faces filled with a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and awe. You have led them here. You have fulfilled your promise. The mana you sought, the prestige and spiritual authority, is now yours. You can feel it settling on your shoulders, a weight that is both heavy and exhilarating. There is still so much work to be done. You must find a reliable source of fresh water, establish temporary shelters, and begin clearing land for the gardens that will sustain you. You must explore this new home, learn its rhythms, its plants, its animals. You must see if it is, as you desperately hope, uninhabited. The debate among archaeologists about how often voyagers arrived at truly empty islands versus those that were already settled by earlier migrations is ongoing. If you find others here, a new and complex chapter of diplomacy will begin. But for now, in this moment, the island is yours. You stand on the beach and look back at the Vaka. It rests on the sand, its journey over. It looks tired and worn, its lashings frayed, its sail patched. It has been your entire world, your protector, your home. It is the single most important object in your possession, the masterpiece of technology and spirit that made this all possible. It will be carefully maintained, a sacred link to your past and a potential vessel for future voyages, for your own children to perhaps one day become explorers themselves. As the sun begins to set on your first day in this new world, a great fire is built on the beach. Not a small contained cooking fire, but a massive bonfire, a beacon of arrival. You and your people gather around it. The first feast is prepared, a newly caught fish from the lagoon, roasted over the flames. The taste of it, fresh and clean, is the taste of a new beginning. The stories told tonight are not of the past, but of the future, of the homes you will build, the gardens you will plant, the children who will be born here, on this island, which you have just given a name. You have transformed a patch of volcanic rock in the middle of the world's largest ocean into home. You have stepped out of the legends of your ancestors and have become a legend yourself. And as you finally lie down to sleep, not on a rocking deck, but on the firm, steady, fragrant earth, the sound of the surf on the distant reef is no longer a sound of lonely immensity. It is a lullaby, the gentle breathing of your new, peaceful world. The journey is over. The frantic calculations of the stars, the constant vigilance for subtle shifts in the swells, the gnawing anxiety of the vast, empty ocean, all of that has faded into a memory, a story you will tell your grandchildren. Now, a different rhythm takes over, a slower, deeper cadence of life tied to the land. The gentle rustle of leaves in the trade winds replaces the whistle of wind in the rigging. The solid, unmoving earth beneath you is a comfort that sinks deep into your bones, a silent reassurance that you are finally, truly home. The immense, crushing weight of responsibility for every soul on your vessel has lifted, replaced by a quiet, foundational sense of accomplishment. You have not just found an island, you have woven a new thread into the great tapestry of your people, becoming an ancestor for a new generation on a new shore. Let the profound stillness of the land quiet your mind. Let the gentle sounds of this new home become a soft and peaceful lullaby. Let the feeling of solid ground beneath you bring a sense of deep and dreamless security. Your voyage is complete. It is time to rest.